Well, net zero. Now, 2 weekends ago, the National Party at its big conference voted down a move by Barnaby Joyce to drop the net zero target, zero emissions by 2050 to save the planet from global warming, a target that's causing all sorts of mayhem. But look at this, in Britain, the Prime Minister is dropping net zero policies, if not the target itself. We can't ask for too much, I guess. Well, not yet anyway. The public just won't wear these policies, you see. And joining me from London is Patrick Christys, star host of GB News. Patrick, what is your Prime Minister up to and why? Because I'm hoping that your explanation is going to send a very big message to our government to do something similar.
Well, shock horror, man wants to win election and net zero policies are not popular. They've been massaging the opinion polls on this for a very long time, where people are asked, do you want to do anything to stop the world incinerating itself? And everyone goes, yes. And they've been saying, oh, that proves that people want net zero policies. But then when you ask them, can you afford a new car? Can you afford a new boiler? Can you afford to put solar panels on your roof? Everybody goes, no. And that implies that actually they don't really want net zero policies. And the point that Rishi Sunak is making is pretty simple, which is we will not bankrupt Brits in order to try to hit net zero targets. They're going to delay the rollback of the ban on petrol and diesel cars, which was supposed to be in 2030. And now, as well, it coincides with the Indian government and the Chinese government saying, don't lecture us on climate change. So it's not going to make a blind bit of difference what we do. And it also coincides with the Labour leader starting to pipe up with some policies that are deeply unpopular, like basically rejoining the EU and giving 16-year-olds the vote. So Sunak onto a winner. Well, I'm hoping that message gets through because our electric car policy is not as ambitious as yours, but we're a much bigger country, so it's much harder to do. Our energy minister wants 50% of new cars to be electric vehicles by 2030. Good luck with our the great distances between charging stations. Let's see if that happens. Patrick, there have been amazing scenes in Italy, particularly the island of Lampedusa, where in one day last week, nearly 7,000 immigrants in 120 boats, an entire flotilla, a real invasion, sailed from Tunisia, Africa, to Lampedusa, bringing more, which meant there were more illegal immigrants than Italians on that island. But for Britain, of course, what happens in Italy is a problem for you guys as well, isn't it? Absolutely. So Italy is the gateway into Europe for a lot of people coming from Africa. But there's no question about it. Britain is the final destination. And what we see now, because of the geography of the island of Lampedusa, which is a very nice rock in the middle of the sea, OK, with about 6,000 Italians living on it and now about 11,500 African young men who've arrived in the last few days. So the European Union and Italy now has a very, very clear choice to make. You can either leave these men on this rock in a detention centre and then deport them back to Africa, or you can fly them from that rock into mainland Europe deliberately, allow them to roam across the continent, live wherever they want, and then possibly end up in Britain. And a lot of people are scratching their heads and going, why on earth would you do the latter? Because if you do that, that is an absolute open invitation for anyone in Africa to want to come to Europe, which, of course, they probably would because they think it's a land of milk and honey. So we are really seriously hoping that the Italians in the European Union wake up to this and they don't decide to, frankly, change Europe forever. Yeah, well, I don't know about that. I think actually, well, I say that, but a lot of countries do seem to be thinking more and more along those ways. I mean, the Scandinavian countries, Italy, in Germany, you've got a far-right anti-immigrant party that's now very dominant in the polls. So maybe that'll happen. I don't know. Patrick, I don't know about you. I'm no fan of comedian Russell Brand. I think he's a bit of a smart-ass, may I say that. He's a hugely popular online show. Here's a taste of his shtick.
Ding, ding, seconds out. The Capitol Police, Hunter Biden's business dealings, UFOs. What's that in the sky? Nothing. Is God real?
Now, I'm no fan, Patrick, but I am disturbed now by how he's been punished without any trial, without any charges even, after 4 women, he said that he years ago sexually abused them, groomed one girl who was just 16 at the time, and if true, that's terrible. Now, he denies all this. But YouTube has now cut off the ad revenue for his clips. The BBC is removing programs he made for them, saying they are no longer acceptable. It's being treated like someone no one can touch. Is this fair?
It's a very, very tricky one, right? I'm a bit like you. I was never a massive fan of Russell Brand, his stand-up, his performances on a variety of different chat shows, or his YouTube work, really. There's no doubt with Russell Brand that he's a completely different person than the drug addict and sex addict that he's spoken very openly about being, 10, 15 odd years ago. A very promiscuous chap who I think undoubtedly over the course of many years of really being right at it has probably behaved in a suboptimal way towards numerous people. That said, we are now looking at a man who's been clean and sober for the best part of, I think, 10 or 15 years. He's got a family man, he's got a pregnant wife, etc., and lives quite a clean living lifestyle, who is now being accused by anonymous people of things that he may or may not have done around 20-odd years ago. In fact, in one case, it is 20 years ago. The police are yet to press any charges. Channel 4 and The Times, which is the newspaper that did this, openly called for people to come forward. So did the Met Police. So these people didn't volunteer their stories initially, and now there's a mass cancellation taking place of it. If I was Russell Brand, I would feel incredibly hard done by. That said, it's important not to come out swinging for the guy too soon, because you never know what's coming down the track.
No, I got that, but innocent until proven guilty, I think, still has to apply. And I'd rather these things be tried in a court, not in the newspapers. Patrick Christys, always great to talk to you. Thanks for your time.